5 campuses, 12 degree courses, 205 master courses. Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore, 5 campuses, 12 schools, 107 degree courses, 205 MA courses.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte,
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito, del presente. E tutto questo esiste anche grazie a te. Questo
Buongiorno.
Good morning everyone, and welcome. I hope you can hear me well. In spite of this time of the day, I can see that there's many people here in the room, and this shows that the topic, so university as a topic, is still a great of interest. This is, I hope it is the case also in other cities in Italy. I'm very happy to be here today after many years to chair a session on universities, on the university sector. 23 years ago, from a similar stage, back then we were talking to the then Minister Letizia Moratti. I was a university student back then. And we were talking also with Professor De Maio, the then Chancellor of the Polytechnic of Milan. He was the main supporter, the main advisor, of the Minister. And we were discussing the reform of the university system. And lots of things have happened since then. However, the need to critically think about universities, about the goal and the destiny and the future of universities is still very topical. This need for reflection is particularly heartfelt among those who inhabit universities. So first and foremost, students, and then also teachers, professors. There is a widespread feeling among them that the university system is going through a radical moment of transformation, which is very uncertain and problematic for a certain extent, because it is in between new opportunities and the risk of being deprived of its own nature. As Lorenzo Ornaghi said some months ago in an article written on Lisand, the focus is of the university basically gradually and inexorably moving away from its typical objective. Over the last 25 years, the university system has radically changed. It has become a university which is, to a certain extent, more efficient. It wastes less. It is less self-referential. It is more international and more open to the needs of the outside world. It is more careful to the needs that come from the outside. On the other hand, however, it is equally true that the university has become more bureaucratic, more blocked in a way, and the red tape is this excessive bureaucracy is sometimes suffocating the genuine enthusiasts. Teaching modules are less and less attractive and more standardized, so universities are less attractive for young talents. Probably this is also a university which is less and less equipped to face the biggest challenges of our time. As a matter of fact, we live in an age of deep transformations. The world is rapidly changing. And if it is true that the neoliberal paradigm that we had rested upon, to which we had, in a way, entrusted our hopes for growth, has failed, equally, there are new cultural paradigms which can guide the future, but they find it hard to affirm themselves. As Mauro Magatti wrote, he's among us today, he wrote in a libretto that will be soon published for Il Mulino. We live a time in history in which, and I would like to quote Mauro, because I fully share his view. So we live in a time in sort of in which we don't have the world of the adults who know the recipes for the future and the world of the young people who simply have to learn these recipes and apply them. No, we are in a completely new stage in which the old recipes are no longer valid and the new recipes are yet to be written, and we have to draft them together. As Moratti said, we need to establish a new pact between generations. So in the university sector, we need a new pact between students and professors. As the British philosopher Whitehead wrote, the dramatic thing of our world is that the people who are rich in creativity and imagination lack experience, and the one who have experience lack imagination. The role of the university is to combine the two, imagination and experience. So today's encounter aims at focusing on the relationship between students and professors. So we thought we conceived it as a dialogue among a number of university students and the two illustrious guests who are sitting next to me. We have Professor Giovanna Iannantuoni. So she is the Chancellor of the University Milano Bicocca, and also the President of the working group, Italian working group of the Chancellors of Italian Universities, and Professor Elena Beccalli, the Chancellor of Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Thank you to you both very much for your presence here, and I'd now like to leave the floor to the students for the first questions. Good morning. My name is Luigi Bendini. I studied at Statale University in Milan. I have a question to both ladies. Over the last few years, much has been talked about the reform of teaching methods, following two main lines, that of the relationship between traditional didactics and online and remote, so synchronous and asynchronous. What do you believe is the value of teaching, and what should be the goal of its reform? And then what is the value of face-to-face teaching? First of all, thank you very much. It's really very, very nice to be here. Thanks, Alfredo, for your kind introduction. I'm very, very happy to be here with Elena, because Elena and myself are great friends. So I'm very, very happy to share this podium with her. And I would like to congratulate her as the first woman as Chancellor of the Cattolica University of Milan. We expect great things from you. The question you posed is very interesting. Allow me to give you a premise in line with what Alfredo said. We all read what Mario Draghi said here at the reading. So we should start, I think, by recalling that his report has been so important in Europe, states that there is a crisis in competitiveness of businesses and also of the European society, and that has been going on for over 20 years. For over 20 years, we have been suffering the decline in the role that Europe has in the international field vis-à-vis the United States and China, so the two big players. And artificial intelligence is exactly one of the points in which we're lagging behind compared to these two players. So what is the answer? And I'm saying this as a mother. My 13-year-old daughter is sitting in the audience. So what is the answer that we can give vis-a-vis this general decline that everybody's been talking about? As an economist, the first two answers is that there is no economic growth that does not depend on two important aspects, the two drivers of growth. So investment in human capital, so training and people, and on the other hand, technological innovation. And there's no way technological innovation that doesn't stem from research. So the training of human capital and innovation, that is to say research, are two marvels that happen, that take place inside universities. There is no answer. There cannot be any answer to the decline of Europe that actually excludes universities. If you think of this, and if you consider that this statement of mine is, if you share this statement of mine, we cannot but be in a way struck by the undervaluation that the Italian university system has in our country. It has been underfinanced, and furthermore, we do not manage to have people understand that the physical presence in university campuses in our cities is something that is irrenounceable if we truly believe in a democracy and in social cohesion. Let me give you two pieces of data. The, so to say, social elevator. You probably know that there are about 2 million university students, and half of them are the first graduates of their families. So none of their parents is a graduate. This is true for women, for girls, to a percentage of 65%. So the university, going to university is the only social elevator we have. So rather than, in a way, wasting it, rather than lowering the level of universities, let's think well about this. I'm also very happy to be here with Elena because I am the president of CRUI in Italy. I represent state and non-state universities at the same time, but I am also the chancellor of Milano Bicocca, which is a state university, while Elena is the chancellor of Cattolica, which is a non-state university. What's the difference between the two? There's no difference, actually. We are non-profit making universities. We are universities whose actions aims at valuing the talents of our students. It aims at doing research and promoting passion and the willingness to change our country to the better. So none of us, when we work on strategies for our respective universities, aims at maximizing profits. Otherwise, we would make completely different decisions. So this is something that has to be said clear and loud. So teaching offers which aim at maximizing profits aim at a completely different thing. So to answer your question, so what's the value of teaching, face-to-face teaching? Face-to-face teaching is everything. Think of Milan. Think of Milan without its 8 universities, and think of Milan without the 250,000 university students that we bring to our city. What would Milan be? Or let's just think about all of the cities where you kind of bring away the university campuses. They would become cities that are empty of young people, of future, of ideas, of passion. Just consider face-to-face teaching and the presence of universities in the cities as the real driver of democracy, as the driver of the future, and as our future and our legacy to future generations. I would also like to start by thanking you for your kind invitation. For me, it's a great pleasure to be here together with Giovanna, a great president of CRUI, who managed to serve in this capacity with great passion and farsightedness. Thank you. It's very nice to be here because there is a very well-known, established link between the Rimini meeting and the Cattolica universities, the Catholic universities in Italy. So knowing that there are lots of Catholic university students who are working here as volunteers who actually contributed to initiatives and dialogues for me is a great, is reason for hope. It means that young people are generous and they can be generously act in volunteering actions. This is very, very far away from the stereotype that sees them as passive subjects who actually do very little for social issues. So thanks a lot for this kind invitation once again. To answer your question, I think that we need to look beyond this distinction between the various modes of teaching. These are just but tools. We shouldn't, however, we should, however, always consider the end goal of teaching. And to do that, I would like to recall a recent excerpt from a speech by Cardinal Tolentino on the occasion of the general meeting of the Assembly of Catholic Universities. He talked about the ultimate goal of teaching as the creation of a space in which every person with his or her individual characteristics can grow, and in which they can become the protagonists of their future, and at the same time, they can widen their horizons precisely thanks to the actions perpetrated by universities. When this happens, we make the personal, the individual good, but also the common good. So we have two individual traits of the ultimate goal of universities and of teaching. That is to say, valuing the individual pathway, the individual trajectory, but at the same way also the common good. All of this presupposes the possibility to value relations inside the university community. This is there was a wonderful excerpt by John Henry Newman in which he says that universities are the alma mater. They know any one of their children. It's not a mill. It's not a mint. And today we would say it's not an anonymous factory producing laureates, graduates. This is essential. And this leads us to do very important corollaries. The first one is that we should not consider students as simple users of a service. Students are human beings, they are persons wishing to experience their university experience, an experience of teaching tailored upon the needs of everybody and capable of valuing the talents of everybody. The second corollary is that universities cannot but be limited to the professionalization of people. That cannot be enough. That cannot be the only horizon of the university trajectory. We have to do more. And in this, we do have a responsibility as professors, as subjects called upon to lead universities. The Anglo-Saxon tradition has oftentimes led us to be very specialized, highly specialized, and this has in a way led to a parcelization of knowledge. We have to be wary vis-a-vis this parcelization. We have to propose a vision capable of having disciplines communicate one with the other. So Italian universities, for example, the Catholic University, the Italian university system is capable of to have humanistic, so the humanities with more mathematical disciplines better communicate. And that's very important to face the challenges of the future and to change the speed of change of these transformations. If we were limited to professionalization, we would train students who are already equipped with outdated skills and knowledge. Let me go back to the topic of innovative or traditional teaching methods. I think we should have these two forms of teaching communicate better. We cannot be limited to the traditional teaching that does not communicate with new technologies. So digitalization and AI, they can bring enormous benefits to teaching, provided that they're not the end of teaching. So the end has to be the authentic goal. But when they are mediators, when they can enrich the experience of the students, well then, in that case, we can really find important benefits also from new technologies used in the university field. It is, however, certain, it is true, that we need to question the traditional teaching methods, and we as professors were called upon to consider how to integrate these two technologies in our teaching pathways. And for this reason, on the occasion of my first inaugural speech last January, I put forward a proposal of an educational pact for the new technologies based on AI. On the wake of Pope Francis' Global Compact, the idea is to understand how we can deepen the modalities through which new technologies can avoid becoming the end of teaching, but rather be a tool serving an enriched form of teaching. And then there's another element leading me to, in a way, further stress the importance of this pact for AI technologies. Without digitalization, we would have closed universities. So universities that are not capable of opening up to potential new users who with traditional methods wouldn't be able to, in a way, access tertiary education. This is something that pertains Italy, but more internationally, it pertains large chunks of the global population. If we think of Italy, there is a big divide in terms of number of graduates if we compare that to the European average. Italy has 31% compared to 43% European average. And that's something that we need to come to terms with. And that's probably a way to open up our universities and also resort to digital tools, provided that this is done in a rigorous way and with quality. I think the difference lies in the way with which we approach technologies, but not in the technologies, because technologies are a tool. And this leads me back to what Giovanna said. The difference lies in the way in which a university uses digital tools. If digital tools are used to kind of be focused only on profit, then we are bound to fail. Economists would say that that's a classical example of market failure. And here I think we have to call upon the action of the state, of politics in general, to avoid market failure. In a potential reform of the system, I think that a starting point might have to tell between profit-making universities and non-profit-making universities, because the difference is there. And in that case, we might even think about using technology as some kind of a middleman, of a mediator, facilitating learning processes, and that not in a way subdue university processes to business logics, which are profit-making. Benedetto Cermele, I come from the University of Turin. The war has unfortunately broken out in recent years, first in Ukraine and then in the Middle East. How can Italian universities, in addition to condemning violence, translate their cultural, ethical, and political role into tangible and structured actions that promote peace building, dialogue, solidarity, and international collaboration between students, teachers, and professors and researchers? What initiatives can they undertake to support grassroots peace processes? This is a very, very important question given the times we're living in. The international situation is very complex. If you look at universities, I mean, you mentioned two close conflicts, but there's many more. There's many others, as you probably know. We've often dealt, we as CRUI, we've dealt with Afghan girls. We created a corridor so that Afghan young women have the chance to study, because that suddenly became impossible in their country. But there are also other moments of tension. For example, U.S. universities and the possibility of hosting, of having non-U.S. Students. Even some Italian students were not granted the visa to study in the U.S. So the freedom of research and the freedom when it comes to exchanging students is very topical. It's a very topical topic. More topical now than in other times. We are therefore oftentimes, and from several parts, asked to take a brave stance vis-à-vis conflicts or non-conflict situations, which are, however, situations in which students are discriminated. I think that our position has always been very clear on this. We've always said that science has no boundaries, by definition. By definition, science, research, the search for truth, the search for scientific experiments, human research, because of the very fact of the very way in which universities were set up in our country. I mean, they're all based on freedom, on the free movement of researchers, of professors, of scholars, and of students. So building peace as a grassroots peace process induces us to take a stance. And our stance is that we aim to be welcoming. We welcome all students, any student who has the desire, the wish, the talent, the passion for research, irrespective of the countries where they come from. This value has to be supported with resources. Clearly, of course, with resources, but also with the right coordination with the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, with politics. If we are to create a humanitarian corridor, as the CRUI did, actually, we decided to finance scholarships for Palestinian students, but then, of course, we need to have welcoming the researchers escaping from the Gaza Strip, and they don't have, they no longer have universities in the West Bank where they can study. Or, for example, there's the issue of Israeli universities. We decided not to boycott Israeli universities. That would be a contradiction. But we need to have a balanced stance. Sometimes this is even more difficult than not having a stance. Sometimes it's easier to be in favor or against a given position. If we adopt a position, a stance of welcoming, based on welcoming, is not easy. You are exposed to the critiques on every side, coming from any side. So we need support. We need also to understand that the internationalization will be a fundamental aspect for our future. Clearly, our country is becoming more and more aged. Our population is aging. If we look at the data, we can see that the aging of our population has already started. We already have entire classes, for example, in school, especially in the south of Italy, which are together because there are no children. So universities will be hit hard starting from 2027, 2028. We can already see that. So this means that we know that an answer to this lies in internationalization. Bicocca University and the Catholic University would like to work on this, on projects on Africa. That's the youngest continent there is. So, for example, we'd like to open international platforms, and hence, again, digitalization can be of help. This openness has to be a true openness. So, an openness that is based on what I said at the beginning, on the respect, on mutual respect, on mutual openness, and the recognition of talents. Talents are independent. They do not coincide with the places where we were born. And then one last point. So students who come, female students whom we welcome from many places in the world. In too many places in the world, women are not allowed to study. Sometimes it's impossible. This is something that should always be borne in mind, because vis-a-vis these female students, we have to be even more welcoming, because many of them are very, very good. They're exceptional. They would have no chance to study unless we took them and bring them here. So my thoughts go to them first and foremost. So to answer your question, which is a very complex one, I would like to once again use a quote, this time a quote by Pope Leo, who's recently taught us very interesting. He said that in order to have peace, we need to have peace, institutions of peace, and universities are and must be institutions of peace. Giovanna has already said that very, very clear. The CRUI and the entire Italian university system is committed on several fronts so that universities can continue representing peace institutions of peace. And they can be even more so because, as Monsignor Gallagher said, they can serve as bridges between civilizations. We are at a time in which we're looking for new bricks. From this standpoint, universities can represent that new brick that can trigger peace processes thanks to the strength of universities, which is the education power. So the strength of education, the power of education, that's a very significant power. It gives the chance to educate new generations in a convinced and rigorous way to the principles of peace, because young generations can then become the, so to say, the yeast, which can then lead, the humus that can lead to processes of social cohesion and peace building. So for their very nature, for their very own nature, universities can become institutions of peace, because they are welcoming and because they train to the principles of peace. Universities can also become institutions of peace because they are neutral dialogue arenas where nations and civilizations and religions can communicate, so they can trigger interreligious and geopolitical dialogue, which are very effective. Just a couple of examples that our university has been confronted with. We've been characterized by the setting up of the Arab Cultural Institute, because actually we want to become the university, a university which is in the world and for the world. Or, for example, a historic dialogue that took place last December between Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State, and the Secretary of the Muslim Arab League, Rais. Again, this was an occasion, a very important occasion of interreligious dialogue that took place because the university is the proper place where you can create certain interreligious dialogue places. And again, another example, next December, together with the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, we will host the Italian ambassadors all over the world to communicate with them on ways to build peace. So we are an arena where dialogue is something that happens naturally and constantly. And that's another direction through which, to which we can go, and through which we can become institutes for peace. And then research, that's another natural area. So we are institutions of peace because we work on research projects that, in a way, assess the impact of armaments in terms of economic consequences or social consequences. This is what, for example, we're going to do in a research center devoted to peace. We should also remember what Giovanna mentioned, that is to say, the value of relations between universities in a very natural way. In that way, we truly build bridges. So between our two universities, or African universities and Cattolica University, these become ways to, in a way, build new paradigms that can de-root this that can actually eradicate conflicts, which are unfortunately so much present in Africa. The African continent is today the continent with the largest number of ongoing conflicts. There's about 28 conflicts out of the 61 that we witnessed in 1924. So that's a continent which is very much affected by these wars present scattered all over. And I think that also from this standpoint, universities can be extremely effective to build bridges between universities and civilizations. Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Nicolois. I'm a student at the University of Bologna. My question is to you both. At a time when student participation is in crisis, what can be, based on your experience, the value of representation in universities? Do you not see the risk that our presence is increasingly constrained within the narrow bureaucratic logic that afflicts universities? What can a university do to recognize the presence of students as a living and generative community experience beyond formal and procedural logic? Thank you. Well, I am very much convinced of the fact that real protagonists of universities are students. This is no rhetorics, but that's the way that I live universities. I often talk about the Catholic University as an educating community in which various components like the staff and the professors, but also the students, all of them play an active role every day, a role based on convinced participation. And this is shown by the thing I did as my first thing as a chancellor of the Cattolica University. I sent a letter to all students inviting them to participate in the university life as tutors, as representatives in the bodies, as members of the various committees, or participants in students' associations. I mean, there's many ways through which participation can be a convinced participation and not a bureaucratic one, only based on form, so to say. Also, I'm very happy to say that there's an active participation in the Cattolica University, which is that of the students of communion and liberation who have historically been an active part of the educating community of our university. And still today they find in Father Giussani a very strong and living sign, because he represented how living the religious sign means actually living an experience. So actually living the university experience in the first place, in my view, is a distinctive feature of our university. Also, Father Augustine di Gemelli has always invited the students in the university to be at the heart of university. That's something that we need to value, because the most important characteristic that distinguishes us, it distinguishes any professor in the university, but also each student in our university. In this respect, the university is no longer a place where we convey knowledge, but it's increasingly becoming a place in which knowledge is experienced and not only conveyed. That's a huge leap. We're still in the process, in the making of this cultural process, but I think that's the turning point. I mean, it's the experience of knowledge and not only the mere transfer of knowledge. This presupposes relationship between student and professor. This presupposes trusting the talents of the students. It presupposes a form of education that actually concerns the big questions relating to the meaning of life, and it also presupposes valuing the community and the relationships inside the community. There is an environment in the Catholic University in which valuing the community and the active participation of students is very clear, and that's basically the university collegi. These have been set up very early in the intentions of our founders. If you think of the Collegium Agostiniano, that was set up a few years after the setting up of Catholic University because of Father Agostino Gemelli, and then the Marianum in 1936. That means that our founding fathers had clear in mind the idea that university meant community, and the collegiums were the pivot around which this idea could become true. And that is still true today. For example, the management board of the collegiums all see the active participation of our graduates, who can bring the values that they have breathed in the Catholic University. And then we also see participation in lots of cultural activities, spiritual activities, volunteering activities, where we see lots of students involved. And they're very far away from bureaucratic passive participation. In this kind of participation, students are actively involved, and they truly make this experience of knowledge, where you have the involvement of the head, of the brain of our students, but also of the hands and the heart, as as Pope Francis has often wanted us to do, thinking about an integral and all-round educational process. So your question is very relevant. I think that an active participation of students can truly make the difference between a university where you only have a process where knowledge is conveyed, and a university in which knowledge is the experience, so where you make the experience of knowledge involving all the dimensions of our students. That's a very interesting question. I have the same question to you. I would like to ask this question to you. I can tell you what I see, but that's a question they should also ask yourselves as well. Why don't you participate more in university life? Why don't you participate more and in a more active way? Maybe in a way which is not so disciplined. I'm telling you this because your years as university students are fantastic, are exceptional. You are yourselves. You understand better what kind of citizens you will become as adults, as well as years in which you can experience as peers the university world, and years in which there are lots of people, chancellors, university professors, deans, and they think of you. We think of you much more than what you think. We really love you. I oftentimes wonder, what can I do to my students, for my students? What new degree courses can we think of? How can we enrich their university life? What events can we organize for them? For example, we've organized the University Day. The office of the Italian president organized this day, and so the 85 universities in Italy opened their doors to potential students. So this means that we try and take care of you and think of any possible initiative to welcome you. So we would like to do more. So when we try and communicate with you, there are those who send messages, and then there are the recipients of messages. So I may send the most innovative and creative message in the world, but if the recipient of that message is not ready to welcome it, well then that message gets lost. It becomes weaker, it becomes less true. But in fact, our message is full of hope and passion for you. So mine is a question to you. Why don't you participate more? That's true. When we carry out elections, student elections, there's very scarce participation. When I talk to my students, I find myself to be more indisciplined than you are. You're very good, very precise, and I would like to kind of shake you a bit, asking you to think beyond, to think outside the box, to in a way engage a bit more. Try and ask us things that we have never thought of. So the question is a question that I would like to ask you. What can we do to really shake you, to really engage you, and kind of bring you out of a life that we've made a bit too comfortable for you? My objective is to have you understand that the university years are not just the years between 18 and 25, but rather from age 0 to age 100. That's an attitude that we would like to convey from the kindergarten, when we would like, for example, younger children to be presented with a poem or with a scientific project, and we would like this to be the case also for elderly people. The university world is a world for everybody, so do come and visit us, and if you don't like what you see, please ask us, because we're passionate about what we do, and with our passion we would like to bring this for you together.
Credo su questa domanda.
Well, I believe that this question refers to the fact that maybe we do too much. I remember when I was a university student, we had study groups made up of students for students. Now it is the university organizing them. They are called tutorship or remedial lessons. And also orienteering was not institutionalized the way it is today. Many activities that we would call soft skills, on which we insist a lot, are now institutionalized. So maybe we do too much. So we prevent creativity, which is there in many students, from deploying itself to the full. So let's take our colleagues' invitation let's take it and be the protagonists of these initiatives as students, and I put myself among the students.
Sono Francesco dell'Università degli Studi di Milano e
I'm from the University of Milan. I would like to ask a question to Rector Iannantuoni. The reform of access to medicine degree courses is creating many problems, not just organizational problems for students and universities. The reform has disregarded the fact of the human impact that should be a time for meeting and orienteering. What can the university do to accompany the students in such a delicate moment of their career? How can we combine the open access to the quality of education and the care of the teaching relationship?
Io ho detto prima ad Alfredo.
I told Alfredo that I didn't want to know the questions in advance, but I was expecting a question about this. This is a very complex question. I have to say that this is a law of the state, the entry test for the medicine programs, and we will try to organize this in the best possible way. I can't hide all my perplexities about this, but before getting to the core of your question, I would like to explain something about this, because I don't know how many people in this room or the people connected, I don't know how many of you are against the planned cap for the number of students that can attend degree programs in medicine. I don't want to call it a closed number. It is a planned number. So planning is really a nice word, because you foresee the future needs of the physicians of the future. So you consider a reasonable number for that. It is clear that 12, 13 years ago, there was a mistake in programming that was made. And we paid for that as a country, because we didn't consider the retirement day of the boomer generation. So there's 15, 16,000 physicians that retired, and we were educating 12,000, 13,000. So there is this gap that we are now experiencing. But when we see the numbers at a European level, we see that the number of doctors per inhabitant in Italy, well, this number is slightly higher than the European average. So where do we have problems? We have problems in some specialty areas, the emergency medicine, general medicine, and we have some specialty schools where students don't enroll. So I would like, if you like, to be a bit bold in my answer. We all want to have our skin checked. And so if we want to strengthen some disciplines, then we have a boom in enrollments. But then if we look at the emergency services, we see that in the Lombardy region, a big percentage of the places are not covered because nobody wants to enroll there. But should we ask ourselves why does nobody want to take the emergency specialty? Why don't students want to get education in emergency services? But let's just read the newspapers for that. Maybe, without maybe, we should manage the healthcare services in a different way. In the last 5 years, 12,000 physicians left our country to move to Switzerland, to the UK, to go abroad. And we have to try and retain these doctors with conditions that are working conditions that are better, not just about the salary, but the general working conditions. Together with the Professional Association of Physicians, we have done that, and we counted how many physicians will retire in 10 years. So a first-year student in medicine today will mean a physician, a GP, in 10 years. So we have to count numbers, and we have to ask ourselves, if we have the planned number of 24,000 units, if we train 24,000 physicians, does it make sense or doesn't it make sense? You give the answer. There is a category that is very dear to me, that is nurses. We have about half of the nurses we will need, and we have entire facilities that we cannot open fully because we don't have enough nurses. Let's think about them and their salary conditions too. But let's get to the question now. How do we do that? Milan had a surge in enrollment in the first semester. For example, Milan Bicocca, the State University in Milan, we have 10 times more enrollment than our enrolled students. So we have huge numbers. How can we do that? How can we guarantee these three programs, chemistry, physics, and biology, that by the end of November and mid-December can lead these students to take the test, and then we will see those that are admitted to medicine, to pharmacy, to biotechnology, etc. And then they can enroll in the second semester in any program, both state and private university programs. Because for now, I would like to remind you that this reform concerns the state programs, state university programs. So how do we have organized ourselves? First of all, in Bicocca and as a university in general in Italy, the greatest number of in-presence lessons should be in presence. This is a big challenge. It is a big challenge because we don't have enough spaces to guarantee such a big number of students, to cover such a, to accommodate such a big number of students. So we will start in September, and in the whole month of September, where there's less teaching there, we will try to do as much teaching in presence as possible for those that will decide to come and attend lessons in presence. We can also guarantee lessons online, streaming, but there will be the possibility to have students in presence. Of course, we also hired many teachers, many lecturers in these three courses that didn't used to be involved in those medicine courses, and we have invested a lot in tutorship activities that is necessary here, Alfredo, for these students. So I would like that each and every one of these 60,000 students enrolled now, we have spent our holidays thinking about you, and you will find the universities ready to welcome you and to offer you education in physics, biology, and chemistry, which are the three courses that were selected for the filter semester, for the capped semester, in the best possible way. So we will welcome you in presence, and we will try to offer you the best possible education to guarantee access to medicine, and if not medicine, to other programs where you could have been the protagonist of your educational experience. So we are there, we're ready.
Buongiorno, io sono Emma.
Good morning. My name's Emma, and I study at the Catholic University in Milan. I have a question to Madame Beccalli. How do you consider the presence of so many energies inside the Italian university system, which comprises state and non-state universities? You've recently been elected as the representative of European universities. So as emerged from your contributions, we would like to know, we would like to focus on the added value and the specific value of having a Catholic university, and how actually and the contribution of Catholicism is expressed in the management of university. And then eventually, what original contribution can a Catholic university offer today? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this question. This makes it possible for me to start by defining, by telling you what a Catholic university should not be. A Catholic university, as Monsignor Gallagher said, shouldn't be the nth operator in the global market of ideas. The Catholic nature of a university is not measured only from the number of crosses hanging at the walls or the number of masses celebrated in the chapel. So this is my premise. And this leads me to tell you what a Catholic university is. It's a university which is in a harmonious dialogue between the search for truth and the certainty of faith. That's the daily challenge that every professor in any Catholic university in the world is faced with. It's not at all an easy challenge. It's a challenge that is based on the need to educate students to a critical way of thinking, to formulating meaningful questions, and to, in a way, training them to pose the right questions. So these unrest in the search for truth, but always being anchored to our faith. And actually, the social doctrine of the Church gives us courage and support in this. It's of great inspiration because it focuses on economic, social, and legal issues, and it actually faces them with the moral question. So drawing on the words of Francesco Vito, talking about the economic issues, as Vito said, with the economy at the service of man, gives you the idea of how Catholic universities look at the university. So we're talking about an economy that is not only targeted to profit making, but rather an economy in which the person is at the core, and the dignity of the person is at the core of our search for the common good. I think that this is the contribution that a Catholic university can give. In other words, leaving room to new paradigms and new ways of looking at reality, trying to identify what the critical aspects are in dominating models to propose a new way of looking at things. And in this respect, I think Catholic universities in the world are asked to cooperate and to be creative in this cooperation. The International Federation, the European Federation of Catholic Universities are, in my view, a very important legacy for the Church and especially for civil society. If we count the number of students enrolled in Catholic universities in the world, well, we count about 6 million students. That's our strength. That's the strength of a Catholic university, being able to train so many people who are deeply oriented to the values that are deeply linked to the common good. And I think that this can really change the paradigms that dominate the economic and social systems and political systems in the world. So our strength lies there. Our strength lies in our students. And our strengths are also our professors, who should focus on educational pathways, on educational careers, where skill training and knowledge are at the center, but who should also care about conveying values. This is quite a thorny issue, but I'd like to stress this fact time and again. If we, as a Catholic university, do not convey values in our teaching, if we do not take care in the training of valuable people who take care of values, well, I think that actually we would lose a great part of the contribution we could give to the whole of society. In this respect, the international federations of Catholic universities are very important. They bring together heterogeneous institutions which are, however, deeply rooted in their reference areas, and which therefore can actually bring a voice, and which can, in a way, trigger grassroots unexpected processes. Grassroots bottom-up processes can lead to unexpected consequences which can be very deep. So my hope in this Jubilee year, and we devoted this Jubilee years lots of initiatives in the 12 schools of the Catholic universities. So my hope in this Jubilee year, as I said, is that Catholic universities continue pursuing their authentic goal, and that they do not rely too much on the bureaucratic commitments which are so burdensome for the university system, but not only in Italy, also worldwide.
Bene. Siamo giunti alla...
Very well, we got to the conclusion of our session, and our rectors were really good in taking up the time that were allotted to them. I have one unplanned question, actually, which is for a very quick question. Give us 3 key words. What are, in your opinion, the priorities for present university? Thank you, Alfredo. I am very wordy, so it's a challenge for me to express myself in just 3 words. I believe that for all the reasons that we have discussed in our session, I think it is a historical, critical moment for university. We have to put on a new dress, a new fashion, innovative fashion, which can keep us abreast with the young students and also for the future. So one of the 3 key words would be future, to give the young students a certainty in building their future. Another important word is democracy, because without education, without giving equal opportunities to everyone, there is no democracy. So it's really an institution for liberty, for democracy. And then passion. I am a person who believes a lot in the fact that we have to love what we do. We have to love the things and the people surrounding us and believing in what we do. So future, love, and democracy are my 3 key words. Well, first of all, I would mention relationships, because getting to cultivating relationships at the university, I think, leads us back to the initial motivation for university. And from there, we have strategic alliances. A university should be open and in dialogue. A university must be able to have a dialogue with other institutions, with other universities, and to bring its voice to all institutional settings, to open up new horizons, new reality. And thirdly, the university should be for the world. I really hope that a Catholic university, but not just that, can be the best university for the world, not of the world, but a university for the world, in the world, at the service of civil society. Thank you both for being with us. The organizers of the meeting remind us that we can all support the meeting by donating. Every donation is a new brick to continue to build together places of meeting, beauty, and hope. Thank you all.
Molto volentieri.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto
Perfette,
e il
siete
bene.
state perfette.
È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo esiste anche grazie a te.